Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to another episode of News Dose, where I give you all of the latest gaming news. And yeah, Xbox Lockhart, the cheaper, more affordable next generation Xbox, may be more powerful than what you think. So not only will it be the cheapest next generation console, and maybe as low as $300 or even $200 according to some rumors, it may be a very viable option for consumers, and when comparing it to the PlayStation 5, it does have some interesting results. So don't go anywhere just yet, and I promise we will go over all of those Xbox Series S details and what it all means. Before we get into all that though, let's first go over some quick news, starting off with some new game updates. Last week we did talk about Bloodstained Curse of the Moon 2, as Koji Igarashi has announced the follow-up to the fan-favorite Metroidvania style game. The thing about that announcement though was that it was missing a release date, and I really have to question that decision because we now do have an official release date for July 10th. So yeah, this is happening very soon, which again, it's kind of shocking they didn't just go ahead and talk about the release date last week when they announced it, but there it is. If anything, they got double the news coverage because, well, here I am talking about it twice, so maybe it wasn't all that bad of a strategy after all. Nonetheless, Curse of the Moon truly was a great game, especially if you like some of Koji Igarashi's older games like Castlevania. And based off what we have seen so far from the sequel, it looks like it may be an even better game than the original. So yeah, I think this is going to be a really good game to check out come July. Now also we got a new Battle Royale game announced by none other than Ubisoft. Of course, I think most publishers are going to try and launch their own Battle Royale game or their spin on the genre, considering how massively popular the genre is. I mean, if you think about it, this all really started with PUBG, and that game absolutely blew up, and then after that, you had Fortnite, which we all know how stupidly successful that game has been, and then you had Apex Legends, as well as Call of Duty Blackout. And each one of those games has been insanely successful, so it's really no surprise that Ubisoft is trying to get in on the action with Hyperscape. And even though we don't have any gameplay footage just yet, I've been hearing good impressions about Hyperscape, and it does sound like it has some really good ideas. So one of the reasons Battle Royale games has become such a big phenomenon is because they're really fun games to watch. Well, Hyperscape wants to take that idea of viewers and letting them interact with the game itself. So instead of viewers just watching, they could instead impact how the game plays out. Maybe they could influence something such as an item drop on the map. That kind of reminds me of how Hunger Games works, but then again, Battle Royale games have always been influenced by Hunger Games, so you might as well go ahead and take that next step. Other than that though, I think Hyperscape has a very nice looking art style. It's artistic and really goes that cyberpunk route, which seems like that might be the next big thing in video games. It wouldn't surprise me at all, as Cyberpunk 2077 is probably going to be huge, so we will have to see how Hyperscape turns out. It may be the next big thing if Ubisoft plays their cards right. They can't just release this game in a crowded market, but they also need to differentiate themselves, and most importantly, make it a high quality game. That's all I'm saying. In other news, do you remember that AAA Harry Potter game that leaked about a year or so ago? Well yeah, it kind of disappeared, and almost every time there is a new event of some kind, I always talk about it and say, hey, maybe that Harry Potter game will finally show up there. Well, it sounds like that may actually be the case very soon, as it's back in the news yet again. This time with some new details though. It is apparently going to be developed by Avalanche Studios. It will be an open world game where you can explore Hogwarts and surrounding areas, which is very cool. I mean, you have to think, Harry Potter is one of the biggest franchises of all time, and I think it does have a very magical world, so being able to explore it in an open world setting, I'm sure that has to absolutely thrill a lot of Harry Potter fans. There is more though, because it will also be a next generation title, so probably the Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5, most likely PC as well. That is all very exciting, and I actually do like the Harry Potter franchise a lot, so I'm excited to see what this game will be like. I'm pretty happy that it is a next generation game as well. I think by this point I'm ready to move on to next generation games where maybe we get to play games with ray tracing and hopefully at 60 frames per second. Now there is still one major question with this big AAA Harry Potter game though, and that is when will we actually see it? Well, apparently it may appear sometime after DC Fandom, which I believe is in August, but if you really think about it, Warner Bros. Has quite a few big games that they should be revealing sometime this year. Reportedly, they will have a new Harry Potter game, Batman, as well as a new Suicide Squad. So it looks like there is going to be a lot of really happy fans this year, or at least hopefully. The jury is still out until we actually see them, but I will ask you, if you are a Harry Potter fan, are you excited for this big open world AAA Harry Potter game? Let me know in the comments below. Now on to our next topic. Capcom decided to give a public statement about Monster Hunter World for the Nintendo Switch. As expected, Capcom has no plans to port Monster Hunter World to the Switch, and well, that's fair. It's a big AAA game and you would have to lower the visual quality quite a bit to make it run on the Switch, but it hasn't really stopped fans from wanting some Monster Hunter game on the Switch. And to be honest, I'm surprised we haven't seen some kind of Monster Hunter game on the Switch, even if it's an entirely different game, especially considering Monster Hunter's past being largely handheld related. That is how Monster Hunter grew so big in Japan in the first place with the PlayStation Portable, and then we saw them primarily focus on the 3DS later on. The thing is, Capcom made a very odd statement that even though they have no plans for Monster Hunter World on the Switch, they however are planning to develop a Monster Hunter game that can be enjoyed by junior and senior high school students, and they say to look forward to future developments. I don't really know what that means, and does that mean Capcom thinks that only people who own a Switch are high school students? I don't really think that's how they meant it, but that's kind of how it came off. I think what they meant was that whatever this game is will likely not be as graphically demanding, so it will be easier to run on the Switch. Still, it's such an odd statement though, but I choose to look at the good side here and that it does sound like the Nintendo Switch will be getting a brand new Monster Hunter game sometime soon. And well, that certainly is great news. Now on to our last topic. We are starting to get a lot of new information on Xbox Lockhart, aka Xbox Series S. So we have all known for a while now that Xbox Lockhart is meant to be a cheaper, more affordable next generation Xbox, and rumor has it that it may be $300 or even as low as $200 if Microsoft wants to be extremely aggressive. I personally do not see it being $200, so I imagine $300 at the very least. The thing is, many fans kind of shrugged Xbox Lockhart off as being too weak and will somehow hold next generation consoles back. Well, we have talked a lot about that on this channel, and from day one I disagreed with those statements, and the truth is finally starting to come out, that no, Xbox Series S will not hold back next generation consoles. In fact, we have some nice new specs that reveals that the Xbox Series S will have the same processor as the Xbox Series X. It will be clocked at the same speed, which means that the Xbox Series S will have a more powerful processor than the PlayStation 5. Now, that doesn't mean the entire console is more powerful than the PlayStation 5, but for comparison's sake, that's fantastic for what appears to be a cheaper, more affordable console than both the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X. So then what exactly is the main difference with Xbox Lockhart and the Xbox Series X? So the main difference are with the graphics card in specific, and it does have less RAM available also. Xbox Lockhart reportedly will have 7.5 gigabytes of usable RAM compared to the Series X at 13.5, and instead of the beastly 12.1 teraflops for the Series X, Lockhart will be 4 teraflops and have less compute units. And right away, I know some fans are going to be confused by all that because the Xbox One X, a current generation console, has more teraflops than Xbox Lockhart. So why would Microsoft replace Xbox One X with Lockhart? And okay, I understand that question, but we are going to clear up all of that confusion today. So first off, let's take a look at Xbox Lockhart's graphics card and compare it with the Xbox One X. So while yes, Xbox One X does boast more teraflops, what we need to keep in mind is that Xbox One X is using outdated technology and it's based off of Polaris architecture, whereas Xbox Lockhart is Navi based. and Navi-based teraflops are much more efficient, so in reality, that 4 teraflops by Xbox Lockhart is much more powerful than what you realize. The main difference though is with the processor in specific. I know there has been a lot of focus on teraflops and solid-state drive speeds for next generation, but we are seeing a massive jump when it comes to processors next generation. It's no secret that CPUs for this generation has been a major bottleneck, and that is not the case with Xbox Lockhart. It has the same clock speeds as the Xbox Series X, and yes, it will have ray tracing, which is a huge difference heading into next generation. I don't even think people realize just how much of a difference ray tracing makes in games, and I'm always reminded of that Minecraft demo where it's just a night and day difference with it on and off. Now, granted, it does affect frame rate majorly, but visually, it looks absolutely stunning. So now the question is, why the options with Xbox Series X and Xbox Lockhart? And also, will Lockhart hold the Series X back? No, we are already getting reports that no, Lockhart will not hold back the Series X or the PlayStation 5 thanks to Xbox's profiling options and same base components. This should make scaling games up and down rather easy by simply targeting different resolutions and ray tracing. And that right there is going to be the key difference with the Series X and Lockhart. Lockhart is meant to be a 1080p 60 frames per second console, whereas the Series X is 4K at 60 frames. Now, if you want the best of the best, absolutely go with the Series X. It'll have better ray tracing, better resolution, and I would imagine better textures and things like that. However, if you don't have a 4K TV and you just want a next generation experience with ray tracing at 1080p, then Lockhart sounds like a very viable option, and yes, much cheaper. I think this is a very smart move by Microsoft, as not everybody has 4K TVs, so instead of being forced to upgrade TVs, you can simply just go out and buy Lockhart. Now, there is one last thing here to talk about though, as Brad Sams is reporting that originally Xbox Series X was meant to launch in August, and Lockhart was meant to release in October. Now, obviously things have changed a lot since then, but what I take from that is that we may see a staggered release here. No guarantees, but Lockhart may not launch side by side with the Series X. I will ask you though, if given a choice, which would you rather buy, the Series X or Xbox Lockhart? Let me know in the comments below. Anyways though, that's it for this episode, but if you liked the video, don't forget to hit the bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Peace out.